When I was a child, I spake as a child. I drank as a child. I smoked dope like a child, and I read Tom Wolfe as a child. And as a child, I wanted to grow up to be Neal Cassady as a child, and that's what I did for the next 13 years, was trying my very best to become Neal Cassady. Neal, driver of the bus. Neal in the incessant monologue. Neal, mythic hero of On the Road. Now, after all those years, I did pretty good being Neal. I can talk a speed rap stream while driving at 110 miles per hour. And drink? I could drink that stuff they made in stir with all that grain alcohol from the dispensary and nutmeg from the kitchen. LSD? I could take about 1,000 mics and carry on a conversation with a suspicious cop. And speed? Yeah, I can mainline speed like it was last week's question answered with those little black bugs I'd be picking off of my skin. Now, Neal only did one thing I wasn't prepared to do. Fuck Allen Ginsberg. Now, even a 12-year-old boy has to draw the line somewhere. Fuck Allen Ginsberg. But driving a jalopy through Denver at a suicidal rage sounded like big kicks to a 12-year-old. And spitting out Thompson machine gun verbiage was just fine to a 12-year-old. And dying beside the railroad tracks in San Miguel with a heart 100 years older than it was meant to be sounded pretty good to a 12-year-old. I mean, I've always been on the depressive side. Hope I die before I get old and all that shit. Now, I have been to San Miguel de Allende, and I can tell you that it looks like a better place to live than to die. There is a downside to having heroes. Sometimes we pick the wrong ones. Sometimes we think we could be just like them if we got a ballpoint pen and a decent connection to buy smack. Now, I may have been born a writer, but I was not born William Burroughs, Keith Richards, Jerry Garcia, or Neal Cassady. These are extraordinary people, and they've had the dubious luxury of being able to grow relatively old. There aren't many old junkies, you know. My friend Gary North lived in Venice in the late 50s. I asked him about his friends from the Venice beach scene. Mostly dead, he told me, and not from old age either. I did grow up to be a junkie, and this leads to a very disturbing question. If I hadn't taken that dose of ecstasy and fucked the donkey, would I be a Pulitzer Prize-winning author living in a killer loft in New York City, banging blonde socialites 2 at a time? What would have happened if I had chose to emulate Kurt Vonnegut rather than Neal Cassady? I would have written a shitload more, but the truth is that stupidity kicks in and tells me that I'm a good human being with many fine qualities, and because of all the horrible and degrading things I put myself through for the past 30 years, that I have certainly become enlightened in mind and spirit. I mean, being a dope fiend has given me plenty of important things to write about. The abortions, the felony, the screaming women, shit, and heartache. The fact of my life is, if anybody had done to me what I have done to myself, I would have to kill them. My problem with beat literature is it sometimes made being stupid look like so much fun. The other problem was watching the beats get mainstream, making up a whole new set of rules. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, even if he's got a set of funky finger symbols, you know? I don't need a whole new set of rules. We pick heroes to back up our intentions. You want to be a revolutionary? Timothy McVeigh or Jesus of Nazareth? Take your pick. You want to be a rock star? Keith Richards or the Captain? Well, the Captain of Captain and Tennille, of course. If you pick Keith Richards, you're going to pay. Although if you pick Keith, you can certainly justify your junkie behavior. I don't know what you justify if you pick the Captain. Pick who you want. I picked Neal Cassady and have had to live with the consequences of picking a small-time manic depressive hood as my hero. Now, there's a peculiar moment in all this. Despite all my efforts to work in motion pictures, the only movie I've ever been in is a Chuck Workman movie about the Beats. I'm in it for about 6 seconds. I was filmed behind the Naropa Institute in Boulder. Fuck the Naropa Institute. I am reading a snippet of a piece called Do It. Do It is a piece about suicide and drugs and the Rose Parade and ultimately redemption. The line I read in my 6 seconds of fame goes like this: give me some smack and a case of blackjack and I will save us all from a world of shit. I was in a movie reading my work about my life and my battle with suicide because this drug, alcohol, and mental illness thing is so much fucking fun. They didn't seem fit to add 2 words, 2 last little tiny words that I could put right here in my back pocket. The complete line goes like this: give me some smack and a case of blackjack and I will save us all from a world of shit and heartache. Heartache because the illusion is too often stronger than the reality. Having junkies for heroes is not a good idea. Heartache because the life costs too fucking much, and if that's the price of being avant-garde, fuck it. Heartache because I was a writer before I ever experienced any of this pseudo-heartache. It is manufactured heartache, distilled heartache, plotted and executed heartache, and I did not need to become a manic depressive drug addict drunk to put words on paper that had weight and substance. But somewhere, and I wonder where, I got the idea that to be an artist I had to put lots and lots of poison in my body and trash my fucking life, shit, and heartache. Even though it is believed by some that Jack got his writing style from Neil's way of speaking, Neil Cassady still never published a book while he was alive. Living a life as a mentally ill drug addict is not a fucking art form, although I do have to admit Neil Cassady came close to making it one. When I was a child, Neil Cassady, my hero, died of exposure 4 days shy of his 42nd birthday. I am 42 years old. I am manic depressive, alcoholic, drug addict. I have hepatitis from shooting dope. The doctor told me it's going to kill me when I'm about 60. Now that gives me 18 years. If I had written for 1/10 of the time that I spent looking for the man so I could cop, I would have a body of work I could stand behind, literally. To be avant-garde is important. Style is important. At this moment, with time slipping away, work is important. The problem is I've never developed the discipline to sit down and do the fucking work. I was always too busy getting loaded. Because of the cost of these things, I have to pick my battles with a little more care. And I need to find out who my heroes are before I'm ready to do time in sake of their memory. Neil Cassady died February the 4th, 1968 in San Miguel de Allende after falling asleep in the rain. He lapsed into a coma and died in a hospital. He went out the night before to an abandoned railroad to count the ties between San Miguel and a neighboring town. He was trying to satisfy a bet.